The Doll from BLACKRIDGE. Hey, I hope this story makes it to your channel. I've been holding on to it for years, but after listening to some of the stories you've shared, I figured maybe it's time. This happened back in 2012. I was 17 then, living with my grandmother after my parents split up. She was the local seamstress, mostly for the older women in town, and occasionally she'd take on odd repair jobs, old clothes, upholstery, and sometimes dolls. This story's about one of those dolls. It was a cold October afternoon when an older man came to the house carrying a wooden box. His name was Mr. Porter. He'd lived in BLACKRIDGE all his life and barely ever spoke to anyone. I remember the smell that came with him, musty, like rotting wood and mothballs. He was shaking as he placed the box on the kitchen table and told my grandmother, "It's broken again. Needs to be fixed before she gets angry." I remember that line exactly, about before she gets angry. I thought he meant his daughter or granddaughter, but when my grandmother opened the box, there was only a doll inside. It was unsettling. Pale porcelain skin, glassy blue eyes that felt too wide, too awake. Its hair was dull blonde, tied in fading blue ribbons, and its mouth was painted in a faint, tight-lipped smile. One of its arms had come loose at the joint, and its left eyelid stuck halfway when you laid it down. "What's her name?" I asked, trying to make light of it. Mr. Porter looked at me, dead serious, and said, "Her name is Annalise. Don't call her anything else." My grandmother didn't want to take the job, but Mr. Porter insisted and offered her $200 cash, twice what she'd usually charge. She caved, of course. Money was tight. He left the doll with us, wrapped it back in the same faded sheet it came in, and said she doesn't like being stared at. Then he left. That night, everything felt off. The air in the house was heavier, cold, even though the heat was on. The doll stayed on the sewing table in the back room, but I swear, I could feel its eyes on me from wherever I was. I kept thinking I heard whispers, faint, like someone talking behind a closed door. I figured it was just my imagination. But then things started happening. The first real incident was the next morning. My grandmother found all her sewing needles stuck upright in a perfect circle around the doll. She swore she didn't do it. We both thought maybe the box had tipped or something, but the needles were too precisely placed, too deliberate. That night, she locked the back room door before bed. We both heard it unlock around 2 a.m. It was a click that echoed through the silent house, followed by slow dragging sounds like fabric being pulled across wood. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, my grandmother told me she'd be returning the doll. "It doesn't want to be fixed," she muttered. "It wants to be left alone." But when she called Mr. Porter, there was no answer. I remember watching her try 3 or 4 times before giving up. That evening, we found the back room torn apart. Thread and fabric were strewn everywhere, scissors jabbed into the walls, spools unrolled across the floor like someone had danced through them. The doll was gone from the table. We found it, sitting at the top of the stairs, still smiling, still watching. My grandmother finally told me what she knew. Apparently, Mr. Porter's daughter had drowned in BLACKRIDGE Creek in the 1970s. She'd been 9 years old, and the doll, Annalise, had been her favorite. After the funeral, Mr. Porter kept the doll in his home, but strange things began to happen. Scratching noises in the walls, cold spots, objects moving on their own. At one point, he even saw his daughter's reflection in a mirror, standing behind him, holding the doll. He tried to get rid of it multiple times, burn it, bury it, even threw it into the creek once, but it always came back, always whole. Eventually, he gave up trying and instead made a habit of keeping it in good condition, treating it like a living thing. The repairs, the careful handling, it wasn't to preserve a memory, it was to appease it. That night, My grandmother packed the doll back in the box and told me we were going to drive it to the church in town. She was friends with the pastor, and maybe, just maybe, he could bless it or something. We never made it out of the house. The box was empty. We searched everywhere, turning over furniture, ripping through closets. Nothing. I was in the hallway trying to call the pastor when I saw the attic door was open. The string was swinging gently like it had just been pulled. I begged my grandmother not to go up there. I begged her, but she did. She was up there for maybe 30 seconds before I heard her scream. I ran up after her, flashlight in hand. She was standing in the corner, trembling, covering her mouth. The flashlight beam caught it. The doll. It was sitting in the center of a salt circle, surrounded by photos of Mr. Porter's daughter. Some old, some looked recent. Recent, as in developed within the last few years. In one of them, the little girl was standing outside our house. My grandmother called the pastor the next morning. He came, said some prayers, sprinkled holy water, and gave us a bottle of it to keep nearby. We locked the doll in a wooden crate, sealed it with nails and crosses, and buried it in the woods behind the house. 3 days later, Mr. Porter was found dead in his home. Heart failure. They found the doll sitting on his chest. I moved out of BLACKRIDGE a year later and never looked back. My grandmother passed in 2017. I don't know if the doll stayed buried or if it found another way back. But sometimes at night I still dream of glassy blue eyes, watching me from the dark. Let people think what they want, but in BLACKRIDGE, we know. Some dolls aren't just haunted. They choose who they want to follow. And once they do, you're never truly alone again. Thanks for watching. If you like these scary stories, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. New horrors drop every week. So don't forget to hit the bell icon. It really helps the channel grow. Have a story of your own? Or something you'd never dare to explain? Tell me in the comments or email it to me.